What's up, guys? This is gonna be a shorter video today, but this was a paradigm shift that really changed things for me that I just learned recently. And when you learn it, it's like a new iOS update in your brain. So the concept is that there's no such thing as hard things, just unfamiliar things. Think about it. Is it actually hard, or are you just unfamiliar with it because you haven't done it before? So take running a marathon. If you've never run before, you're gonna see it as hard. But really, you just are not used to running, so you're unfamiliar with running that far, making it hard. Versus the person who runs every day, they build up that tolerance, and now it's not hard for them because they're familiar with it. Therefore, taking away what we consider hard. So if you just get rid of the word hard in your brain and just kind of rewire that as unfamiliar, this completely changes how you see things. Anything that you can think of, for the most part, this will work for. Cold calls, right? Anything like uncomfortable like that. Or sales, right? Is it hard, or are you just unfamiliar with it? If you had 1,000 sales calls or did 10,000 cold calls and talked to people, would it be hard anymore? Probably not, because now you'd be familiar with it and you'd understand what to do, therefore not making it hard, right? Or working out. How hard was your first workout, right? When you had all the muscle soreness after, all the pain, because you've never done it before. But if you've been working out for 3 to 5 years, or even like a couple years, but just being consistent, 3 to 5 times a week, all of a sudden it's not hard anymore because you're familiar with all the exercises, the movement paths, what to do. Sure, you're still gonna have to exert yourself, and there are gonna be moments where you're gonna have to quote unquote work hard or push through, right? But when we think of hard, we think of it as this kind of abstract concept that we just throw as a label towards things that we're unfamiliar with for the most time, or don't know how to do yet. Now, there are objectively more difficult things than others, right? Like going to school for aerospace or rocket engineering is going to be more difficult than going to school for a liberal arts degree, right? So it's objectively more difficult than this, but assuming you have the capacity to be able to understand everything, if you were to do it long enough, you would familiarize yourself with it. And then the advanced calculus and mathematics that, if you didn't know anything about it, would slowly become familiar with you, right? Then it wouldn't be hard anymore, it would just be second nature. So think about this for different areas in your life that you consider hard, which usually, for what I've noticed, is for things that we haven't yet done, because we're giving it this label kind of as an excuse or a reason why we haven't done it yet. Oh, well, that's hard. I don't want to use my energy towards that. Think of making money, for instance, making money online or starting a business. Well, that's hard. It's hard to create a successful business. I'm sure you've heard this before. And sure, you could say that, but if you really break that down using the reframe of it's just unfamiliar, all the steps together are unfamiliar to you, right? So you need to figure out how to get attention, right? The marketing. How can you get people to know about the service or the product or information that you're offering to sell? Then number 2, how can you get someone to buy it, right? So how can you get familiar with talking to a bunch of people to get them to want to give you money for what you're offering them? And then how can you deliver for them? So how can you learn how to do the thing over and over again to the point where you're familiar with how to do it and making it not hard? So all these steps, if you really break it down rationally, are not super hard by themselves. It just takes time to learn. But it's the amalgamation or the combination of everything together, and just trying to just see the mountain, right? Before you just break it down into bite-sized chunks. This is what gives us that kind of concept of hard versus just a bunch of unfamiliar steps that you need to put together, that you need to get enough reps in, take enough action consistently on, be able to familiarize yourself, know what to do, and then slowly it becomes second nature. So for instance, I've been making a video every day for the past 27, 28 days. So the first video was very hard. I felt very awkward on camera, didn't really know how to set everything up. The technology to record and all this was confusing to me. But now on day 27 or 28, it's kind of second nature. I can just sit down, I have all my settings locked in, I just click all the buttons, record, and I know to edit very quickly now because I've familiarized myself with this. I've done 27, 28 repetitions in a row. And now it's become a lot easier, right? So what I would have considered like quote unquote hard on day 1 is now easy on day 28. Just because I know the steps now and I'm able to see all the steps like in my mind, right? Because I've done them, so it all makes sense now. Obviously this doesn't apply to everything. There is things that are like legitimately more intensive than others, like the rocket engineering versus some quote unquote like easier degree like liberal arts, right? You do need to be more intelligent to be able to understand the mechanics of a rocket ship than to understand like more abstract concepts, right? But for the majority of things that are quote unquote hard, the hard part is just continuing to do the thing consistently and not stopping, right? That is what makes it hard. It's like running an ultra marathon, like 100 kilometers or 100 miles, however long it is. Anyone could run 100 meters. So what about a kilometer? Maybe less people can run a kilometer. But if you ran a kilometer every day, you'd get better at that, and then maybe you could run 10 kilometers after a month. And then if you ran 10 kilometers every couple of days for a month, you'd probably be able to run 20. And then the more you familiarize yourself with it, the farther and farther you can go until you would be able to get to that 100 at some point with the correct training as you familiarize yourself with everything. Because that's where the learning happens, right? It's not just doing the thing over and over again, it's consistently improving at the thing. And that's where the real kind of magic happens. Because if you're not consistently improving, then you're not actually becoming familiar with it. Because familiarizing yourself with the process is basically doing it over and over, but making the micro adjustments as you go to improve it, right? Because if you knew something wasn't working or you have more knowledge of doing it over and over again, you're able to see more of the nuance inside of the thing and make it better, right? So with that being said, I challenge you guys to reframe this in your mind. Anything that you give the blanket statement of, oh, that's hard, or I can't do that, that's too hard for me. Ask yourself, is this hard or is this just unfamiliar to me right now? And if I was to familiarize myself with this and just take consistent action by doing it, every day for a month, right? How hard would it still be if I was able to do it every day? And I think for most of you, the answer would be not that hard anymore once you knew what to do and were doing it every day. So with that being said, take consistent action on your main thing and don't stop. Peace.